Dear participants, welcome to our session, Inclusive Finance and the Rural Economy, Maintaining and Boosting Growth. My name is Pavel Kapsdorfer and I am MSc Network and Partnership Manager, and I will be moderating the session. In case of any technical issues, please direct your messages in chat to our technical coordinator, my colleague Maria, who is in the backstage ready to assist you. Our session will last approximately 40 minutes. And in case you would have any comments or questions to our speakers, please post them in chat. Towards the end of the session, we hope to have some space to answer them. At this session, we would like to discuss the challenges, barriers, and solutions for reaching rural customers, supporting rural entrepreneurship, touch base the gap on financing needs and access to finance, talk about the young generation and what programs and tools we have to encourage them to stay in rural areas. We'll also discuss with a representative of inclusive finance provider about the opportunities and challenges associated with the supporting clients in rural areas. DG Agri, or Directorate General for Agriculture and Rural Development, plays a crucial role in rural development as part of the Common Agriculture Policy of the European Union. DG Agri supports inclusive groups by promoting social inclusion, poverty reduction, and economic development in rural areas, aligning with the EU Rural Development Policy. I would like to welcome two representatives of DG Agri and a representative of the microfinance sector, FedInvest from Albania. Nivelin Noev is the team leader on financial instruments and relations with European Investment Bank Group in DG Agri. He is responsible for the European Agriculture Fund for Rural Development stream of the FICOMPAS platform. Between 2006 and 2017, he coordinated the European Agriculture Fund for Rural Development Policy section, dealing, among others, also with infrastructure and services in rural areas. Dear Nivelin, welcome to our session. We know that financing of agri-food micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises plays a crucial role in supporting the economy of rural areas. Could you provide us with the overview? What are the results of the latest survey on financial needs and access to finance of EU agriculture enterprises, which has been organized by European Commission and European Investment Bank?
Thank you, Pavel. Thank you, Pavel, for inviting us to be part of this big event, and also for allowing us really to present the latest we did on access to finance. Before we launch my presentation, I just would like to say that this is an extremely important issue, not only because it relates to the economic development of rural areas, but it also because it is closely linked to how our investment grants are implemented and the support of the Common Agricultural Policy in relation to investments, social and economic development in rural areas. So let's start with my presentation. Like you said, Pavel, I will talk about access to finance and our recent results. I will start with this, but before moving to the concrete results, I would like to focus a bit on the changes that happened in agriculture in the European Union between 2010 and 2020 based on Eurostat data, because they show a very important trend. First of all, we have a significant reduction of the number of farms by almost 25%, so from 12 million to 9 million, which ultimately led to a result of increasing the farm sizes. The biggest loss were farmers, very small farmers, up to 5 hectares. We lost around 1/3 of those. And at the same time, there are different developments which are also triggered by the policy, such as increasing the number of organic farms, keeping more or less the same, unfortunately, more aged type population of managers. The reason why I wanted to show this is basically because we noticed with the survey that there is a change in the demand of finance, and also there was a change in the average loan amounts which were asked by agriculture. Basically, they increased. And one of the reasons behind that is actually this enlargement of the farms, the increase of farms which shares of all classes above, with a standard output above 5,000 euro and above 5 hectares. So moving to the next slide, together with the European Investment Bank on the Fee Compass, we started a survey this year, which was complementing work we did before the COVID period, where we did a similar type of survey, calculating the financing gap. And we actually saw that despite the COVID impact, despite the impact of the energy crisis, the war in Ukraine, and the significantly high inflation, there is actually a growing gap of around 60 by 33%, reaching up to 62 billion euro. For agro-food sector, we saw exactly the opposite. There was a reduction from 12 billion to 5.5 billion euro, which actually meant that agro-food enterprises adapted much better to the crisis years and have much easier access to finance. But in agriculture, we actually saw a number of important developments. First of all, more farmers are not applying due to fear of rejection. There was a significant increase in the share from 10% to 14%. We saw that more farmers are applying for finance, but at the same time, more farmers were also refusing loan offers due to unsatisfactory condition. And basically the gap captures all these elements. It captures those that were refused, those that were refused to take a loan offer from the bank or the financial institution because it was not really adapted to the business, or those that were afraid of applying because they knew in advance that most likely they will be rejected. Like I said, there is an increase in the average loan size, which I think is important in the context of microfinance. But we also saw less rejections from banks, significant dropping down rate, which can be interpreted both ways. First of all, it can basically signal that only farmers who were very precise and ready with their business plans approached banks. And the second reason could be related to the fact that we see a kind of an opening of the banking sector towards agriculture compared to what it was about 10 years ago. Moving to the next slide. This is showing on the left side, you can see the figures for 2017 and 2022. I'm not going to specify the numbers, only countries in green, and there are just 5. So from our results, a kind of a positive trend in reducing the gap. But I think the key point from this slide is that small farmers continue to account for the largest share of the gap, basically 39 billion euro. And in 2022 were associated with non-given loans to small farmers. And here, for the purpose of our survey, we define small farmers, those that have less than 20 hectares of land. And at the same time, we saw a major problem with the long-term loans. It still remains on the market, also from 2017, but there is a kind of significantly increasing share of long-term loans with about 8 billion euro. And basically, it looks quite difficult over the last years to break this relationship between preventing small farmers from having better access to lending, and then also products which are offered on the market long term that can really help with the introduction of certain investments in the production cycle of the businesses. And I think here is where microfinance can play a role, particularly because microfinance institutions and organizations, they have closer contact with small farms operating at local level compared to big commercial banks, where we see also kind of a globalization over the past years and withdrawal of offices also from rural areas. Moving to the next slide, it is just a representation of a process based on the Eurostat data, but this time from our own FADN data set, which actually shows, if we look on the right figure, that the share of farmers with debts, whether long-term or short-term, actually has increased over time. We see a significant increase after 2017 of the number of farms with short-term loans. This was particularly also an issue during the COVID years when liquidity was lacking on the market. And the decline which we see on the left figure with the blue trend line showing the decline in long and medium term loans should not be misleading, simply because we also have a reduction of the number of farms. So while we may say that we may see that less farms are having such medium and long-term debts, we also know that 25% remained, and I think on the right side quite clearly the trend is shown. So basically, financing agriculture is a very important issue. I think this is what I wanted to underline, and farmers are becoming more and more active in asking for money, either financial institutions or microfinance organizations. Moving to the next. Very briefly here, these are different trends that we see over the years from 2014 to 2020. When we compare the long-term loans value to the total assets. Why I wanted to show this figure, it is because it is important to know not only that, let's say 3 million farms on average per year have debts, but also how this relates to the assets they have. And you know, assets are very important when it comes to lending, especially from commercial banks. And this gives a much more correct picture what is happening at member state level. So we should not only look at the gap per se, but also we should look at the different capabilities of the sector within the member states. And you see here certain countries like Denmark, Belgium, France, the Netherlands, also Latvia, Luxembourg, Estonia, where somehow there is more indebtedness of the farmers compared to what they own vis-a-vis the long-term loans they have taken. Moving forward with the presentation, this figure comes from our survey, which we did this year. We surveyed actually around 6,550 farms across 24 member states. Only Cyprus, Malta, and Luxembourg were excluded for representativeness purposes. So the data which we have, which is published on the website of FICOMPAS, is representative at European level and also national level. What we saw when we looked into the distribution of the different products and the amounts, basically when it comes to short-term financing up to 1 to 3 years, around 2/3 of the loans given there are below 50,000 euro. I think that's very important for microfinance. It actually shows there is a huge demand on the market for liquidity purpose, but as you will see a bit later, these are resources that are not only used for running costs, but they're also used partially for investments. Personally, I think it's important sometimes to know the distribution of the resources between liquidity and investment, but I think overall, when it comes to the financing from the market and what farmers have got, we see that in the category of medium-term loans, about half of them are below 50,000 euro, and 2/3 of them are short-term loans, also below 50,000. It is totally different with the long-term loans, where we see amounts about 80% of the lending, the long-term lending, which farmers have received, actually is for amounts above 50,000 euro. And at our recent conference, annual conference, which we had in Brussels on 12th of October, the presentations of which are also published online in the FICOMPAS website, there were managing authorities already announcing that with an amount of 25,000 euro up to 50,000 euro, sometimes it's very difficult to launch significant investments on the farm. At the same time, we are also fully aware, and this was also recognized by our member states, that commercial banks are not always the right financial institution that can reach small farmers in rural areas. So I think it is extremely important that we have a diversity of products and organizations, including micro lending organizations, that can help with the distribution of more resources reaching the sector.
All right. I think having or showing the statistics, we are going to have less farms. It's not such encouraging news, but what I find as good news is there is increasing demand for the financing from maybe lower number of farms, and which means they are ready to develop and grow, right? So I think it's worth also looking at your slide with information about fear of some farms to apply for the loans. Maybe there is needs for some education and also support schemes which would help them to feel more comfortable, when it comes to their financial support.
This is totally correct. We have an opportunity we offer. I mean, the legislation offers the possibility to combine technical assistance with the financial instrument. We have, unfortunately, only one case, which I will present a bit later, but it is a very valid point. I think it's also not just about investing and growing, but it's also about surviving sometimes, because recently there are a lot of negative impacts from climate change, floods, droughts, situations which are actually erasing the production of the farmers, and then they need to they don't have an easy way out to start something else. So they need to bridge the time from being affected from those negative environmental or climate conditions to the next production year. And we do offer this possibility, and I think it's also equally important for this purpose.
Okay, Nivelin, I mean, we are getting short of time, having in mind other two speakers, which are going to also share what they prepared for us. And here, I would like just very quickly, or highlight maybe something which you deem really as most important one. What are the financial and non-financial instruments to support the agri-sector rural areas?
For me, it's very important to say that we managed also, thankfully, to FICompass, where we had a very specific activity like targeted coaching. So we educated, trained a lot of managing authorities and more than, I think, 500, 600 staff members in the different ministries. We see confidence in using financial instruments. So basically, in the new period, we already have 12 member states with almost 1 billion euro public resources. We have ongoing financial instruments, and in this context, we have really a diversity of products. It is extremely important how the product in the instrument is designed, what are the conditions which are built up. Equally important is how it is channeled to the market, but if it is not designed properly to address the needs of a different specific groups, then obviously it will be very difficult for the instrument to be successful. And in this context, for me, it's also important to say that we have a very significant leverage when it comes to guarantee funds. What we see is that the median average is around 1 to 8, and the leverage is very high. For loan funds at the moment is around 2. So this is also a very motivating result for managing authorities and also us to keep on supporting our instruments. And I'm sure and I'm convinced that this 1 billion euro will not remain 1 billion, but it will be increased over time, especially once the current instruments are closed down by the end of 2025. Let's move to the...
All right. And the third question which I would like to have to you is whether you could, show us and explain about some examples of microfinance financial instruments which are supported by European Bank for Rural Development.
Yes, I think they're not just supported by the EIB, but these are instruments actually which are nationally run through national promotional institutions. One remark before I focus on the two cases very quickly is that all our instruments, with exception of one in the region of Lombardy, which was specifically designed for agro-food sector, all our instruments do allow the possibility to finance microloans. So there is no limitation on that. Some have even better targeting towards small farmers, preferential conditions, etc. But when it comes to pure micro and small loans for rural development, we do have only a few examples. And this is the case of Croatia is one of them, where actually it's a very interesting case. The managing authority started with a very low amount of around 18 million euro, and then when it saw the demand from the sector, it increased it to almost 110 million euro by the end of last year. Fully absorbed more than 2,000 projects, great interest, not only liquidity, but also linked with investments. And actually the managing authority, in order not to stop this support, launched a national scheme in the current months, which next year will be taken over by the new instrument under the CAP strategic plan. So I think it's a very good example of transferability, knowledge which was built, and then really having a product designed for the purpose and the help of the sector in the country. Moving to the next example is the one of Greece. You know, Greece was in a difficult situation some years ago. There is a significant improvement on the market, but there is still a huge demand by financing. They have prepared a very interesting instrument with a very interesting product that it's a risk-sharing instrument. So half of the resources come from the rural development program, another half from the banks. But our resources, they come at 0 interest rate. So there is a significant 50% reduction of the interest rate. The Greek managing authority offers 300 euro per recipient as a technical assistance support to help them create a proper business plan, cover also some additional costs. And they also allow 2 years of grace period when it comes to the repayments. And basically you see that for a period of, I would not count February, March, where they had very little and just started the implementation, but for a period of 5 months, they exhausted a volume of around 22 million euro, achieving a total leverage of around 35 million euro. And they're now thinking of how to boost this also under the new CAP strategic plan. So these are just 2 examples, but I think they're pretty showing by themselves the need to have right operators, and in this context, microfinance institutions and organizations in each country that can reach out to beneficiaries that commercial banks cannot.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Nivelin, for all your inputs and information. I think it's great to see that indeed microfinance organizations, microfinance providers are equally recognized as important players on agriculture, rural markets to support the rural development. And hopefully we see more of these instruments in future in different countries.
Yes,
so
I think there is a scope, and I would simply advise any microfinance organization or association to be in a discussion with the managing authorities and the governments and to push for that. Because when governments know that there is a need and demand, they will also do the necessary step, including ex-ante assessment, which is required to perform it and to launch such instruments. So thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you, Nivelin. And now I would like to welcome Aude Blanc, who is Policy Assistant at the Directorate General of Agriculture and Rural Development in the unit which is focused on social sustainability. She mainly follows topics of young farmers and youth in rural development. So let me ask Aude to share her presentation, her slides, and I would like to ask you first question, keeping the young generation in rural areas is indeed a huge challenge. Where do we stand in terms of aging of farmers in rural areas, and what are the main barriers to encourage young people to stay?
Thank you, Pavel, for this presentation. Hello to everyone. So about young farmers in rural areas, we have to face many challenges at the EU level to keep them in rural areas. In fact, especially in agriculture, the reality today is that our farming population is aging with an average age of 57 years old, and 1 in 10 farmers is under 40, and 1 in 20 farmer is a female young farmer. So we say it's not enough for the future of our agriculture and to support our food security and sovereignty in the EU. But also we have many issues to keep young people in rural areas, while it represents 80% of the EU territory and 30% of its population. So it's really, really important, and it's not possible to leave them aside. And so the main barriers that we see today, we have the access to essentials, such as telecommunications, access to public services, such as healthcare, childcare, transport. Sometimes it's really hard to get from a point to another, to education. We also have the problem of access to land, especially for young farmers. It's not really easy to afford, and neither to have access to credit for that. And also the question of employment opportunities. You don't have the same ones than in urban areas. So to keep young farmers and their families in rural areas can be really complicated.
All right. It's probably clear, and it's not valid just in European Union, but anywhere in the world. So we need to face the equal challenges. And let's see what are the EU programs, initiatives, and tools which can support development of rural areas to raise the social, environmental, and economic standards of the rural population.
Indeed, we tried to develop some solutions to find ways to keep those young people in rural areas. So first, we can talk about the long-term vision for rural areas that aims at developing prosperous, resilient, connected, digital rural areas, and which would gather all the gaps that we just saw. We also have the common agricultural policy that we'll see a minute between is agricultural objectives, but also rural development. And you also have some structural and sectorial funds, such as the European Regional Development Fund, Erasmus Plus, or even the Horizon Europe. So what can we do in the CAP that DG Agri is in charge of? Here we have the example, the question of young farmers. So first, what is a young farmer? A young farmer is someone under 40 years old, is the head of the holding of his farm, and has the appropriate skills and training for that. So that is determined by the member states in their CAP strategic plans. And in it, they can have different interventions, such as the complementary income for young farmers, part of the direct payments. You also have the setting up for young farmers and new farmers to really support the installation. You can also have some investment support that is higher for young farmers, so it can be up to 80%. And also to support the business, the farm transfer, also the exchange of knowledge between generations, you can have some interventions. For more support to young people not in the agricultural sector, you can have from Install some rural business startup ads for the non-agricultural activities. You can have the program leader that is really here to support the development of activities and economic businesses in rural areas, and also smart villages, because it's essential that rural areas not being disconnected really from the other parts of the country and the EU. And just to give you some examples of good practices that we saw for the startup ad for young farmers in Czech Republic. In fact, there was a young female farmer that was able to take back a farm and to develop a new activity with sheep, and to get their wool, and then to be able to have craft products and to sell this. Or another point of view, you have in the case in Croatia that thanks to the funds, developed a kindergarten, a nursery, because there were not enough in the municipality. And so that created employment and also supported local people to find jobs and to find other opportunities. And also more recently from the other EU institutions and We have the European Parliament resolution on generation renewal in the EU farms of the future. So, and also from the European Economic and Social Committee is preparing currently an opinion on the role of youth in rural development. So we see it's really important topic and high on the EU agenda that we need to keep our young people in rural areas.
All right. So here I see you want to show also some examples how the young generation can be supported in candidate countries as well. So please go ahead.
Yes, in this case, generation renewal is also a stake across other borders and everywhere in Europe. And so to support candidate countries, we have the rural development programs under the instruments for pre-accession assistance. And so here you can have several measures to support and to focus on young farmers. And especially there is one on financial instruments. But at the moment, we've seen that non-country has applied it. So maybe a clue, and maybe you in those cases you can contact the countries and the local authorities in charge. But yeah, we have tools, and we aim at supporting everyone towards those challenges.
All right, thank you very much, Ode, for your inputs and yeah, showing some hope for the future, that there are existing different programs, instruments, tools, initiatives, yeah, which should help young people to accommodate their entrepreneurial activities in rural areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now let me welcome Perlat Sulaj, CEO of the Savings and Credit Association, FedInvest, which is the largest provider of micro loans in rural areas in Albania. It has been established under the World Bank Initiative as the first pioneering microfinance institution in Albania in 1992. Perlat, welcome. Please introduce very briefly FedInvest and share your experience with serving vulnerable communities in rural areas. What are your key learnings?
Thank you, Pavel, and thank you for inviting me in this panel. Of course, I represent FedInvest here as CEO. FedInvest, as you said, is the largest credit and savings association in Albania. Last year, we had the 30th year celebration of the organization, and we are proud to say that we've been very consistent, very, let's say, pursuant to our mission to serve communities, vulnerable communities in rural areas particularly, and in agriculture sector as well. So I would say that agriculture remains one of the main sectors in Albania, and we are focused very much there. It represents around 18% of GDP, and the population workforce there is about 40%, as we say now. So FedInvest currently has more than 90,000 members that are located in all the country and served through 64 branches we have in all areas of the country. Mainly, we have been providing, traditionally loans and deposits, and we started with loans, we grew up with deposits, and of course, we've been growing with our customers, with our farmers, which are our primary customers. But we serve also micro entrepreneurs in rural areas, and also we've developed recently in urban areas as well. So I'm saying that we develop with the customers, with their trend, we following them also in urban areas when they migrate there. So we're developing with them. So over the years, we grew with them, and we saw that in addition to loans and deposits, they need other financial products. They need current accounts, they need utility payments, they need also internet banking, as we see these days, and they need also non-financial services. So we realized, the leadership of the association at that time realized that a big transformation was needed to increase the capacities of the institution to provide and to be able to match with the needs of our customers, which primarily live in rural areas. And that big transformation has been taking place over the last 5-7 years. it was full transformation of our regulatory framework, systems, human resource capacities, branch network, marketing, and products. So that made us now possible to offer currently, not only loans, deposits, but also utility payments, current accounts, which is very important, overdrafts, and internet banking. So in addition, we have also been providing over the last 3-4 years consistently, non-financial services to the farmers and other actors in agricultural sector. Of course, loans are our main assets, and they are catered to meet the needs of the farmers and rural customers. They are very flexible in terms of collateral and loan repayments. They go with the seasonal, of the income of the farmers in terms of repayment. And thanks to EIF guarantee agreement that we have with them, we've been able to provide really almost no collateral or very easy collateral loans for up to 25,000 euro and later up to 50,000 euro. So that's what Fedinvest stands, I'd say, these days.
Right. Let me jump, to the third question we were discussing together. What are the opportunities and ideas you try to explore to overcome challenges of rural communities?
Okay, I think first of all, I wanted to mention as well that our expansion in rural areas over the years have been great in the country. So we've covered more than 2,000 villages, and we've been providing our services, to around 40 of our branches that are very close to the rural communities. So I'd say how we proved ourselves and how we are serving them and how we're overcoming the challenges is really by being close to them, understanding their language, understanding their needs, and building tools, that we can reach them. So this is in practical what Fedinvest represents, which has the biggest presence in rural areas, and as any other institution in the country, financial institution in the country. In addition, we also I mentioned also that we are been providing non-financial services. Last 3 years we've launched abaonline.al platform, which is free of cost and is can be used by any farmer, any agriculture actor at any time. Just need to have internet, and we have application developed for any smartphone. So in that we provide a large number of articles for technology, up-to-date articles, up-to-date certification needs for agriculture products. We provide possibility for them to promote their products online. We also provide the opportunity for them to get real data on market. So that's a tool, to get information, to get connected with other people, and to sell their products. How we are overcoming the challenges these days, that agriculture has in general, not only in Albania but all over the places, but particularly in Albania, because we've been having a lot of migration of people in the country, not only inside the country but also outside. I would say that few are areas that we are working on. One is really to promote. Is that a slide more? Okay. So one of them is to promote and finance sustainable agriculture farms, which believe has the future, and we're doing that through our people, that have a lot of expertise in agriculture, our staff and our elected people, because Fedinvest is a member-based organization, is a mission-based organization all over, and we have our people around in all areas where agriculture is taking place in Albania. So we are focusing on also on crop rotation, crop diversity, water conservation, pest control using non-chemical tools. And all of this as well take place in our platform, and through our push notification, we promote these success stories in this direction, and also we show them, how to serve in agriculture that, take into consideration sustainable development. In addition, we're working on risk mitigation to foster stability. And we're exploring schemes with the government, with donors, for risk sharing schemes. And we already had some good experience in that direction. Financing value chains also, is a good possibility nowadays, because there is a lot of tourism last few years in Albania, and that is very much linked with the agriculture. Local products are in high demand, so we're exploring ways how we can promote that and how we can finance value chains that can build in that direction. Facilitating market linkages. We already had a great example this year in cooperation with a couple of other organizations in Albania, which are called VC Albania and Council of Agriculture Associations of Albania, to help all olive oil producers to export their excess quantities they couldn't sell in local market. And that helped more than 300 agriculture olive oil producers that, registered in a dedicated window in our platform, and then got connected with the other actors of the value chain for exporting. We are also looking at, to support immigrants that return to Albania. We already have several cases that we have financed, and we hope this becomes a trend, because agriculture nowadays, of course, has a lot of challenges and a lot of uncertainties. But in addition, there is also a lot of opportunities that are created in this direction, because consolidation of farms is taking place in some areas. New technology is coming in to substitute with some of the labor that now is missing, and there is also new ideas on modern practices in smart agriculture technology. So we're looking at them as well, and of course this will take market education, will take farmers education, will take a lot of efforts, to have farmers and have them on board to embrace new technologies and new practices. But that's a cost that need to be shared among all other players in the market. So we're looking and exploring possibilities to subsidize costs for market education and training the farmers, and also providing financing for new smart agri-technologies. And that is related also very much with the building financial and digital capabilities of our customers and our staff, primarily initially, because they will be the first contact and frontline people working with the farmers.
Okay, Perlat, I think you provide a really exhaustive list of activities, ideas, and actions which you are already implementing. It's not just the idea to overcome, but it's already something which is happening within your organization, and it's really great to hear and see your agility and activity in this field. And I hope that all of this is going to succeed on your side, and yeah, you will be the inspiration for the others in the sector as well to implement something similar. And together with the local authorities or EU authorities, we will be able to join the forces and provide more tailor-made programs needed for the people living in the rural areas. So this brings me to the end of our session. I know we are a few minutes over, but yeah, I wanted to give all of you opportunity to present all these interesting and worthwhile information. And before we leave, I would like my colleague to launch the evaluation poll, one single question, just to learn how did you like the session. And meanwhile, I would like to thank you all the participants for joining us today. Thank you all the speakers for being with us. And we hope that you are still going to join us at our last session of the conference closing and inspirational talk by Timothy Ogden. I hope you enjoyed the conference, and we hope to meet in future events organized by Microfinance Center. Thank you. Goodbye.